All right, let's talk about two words we hear all the time, but often get mixed up: culture and gender. We're going to untangle these two, figure out what they really mean, how they're different, and honestly, why getting it right actually matters. So let's just dive right in.
So be honest, have you ever found yourself doing this? Maybe you say something is part of a country's culture, but what you're really talking about is an expectation for men or for women. Hey, if you have, you're definitely not alone. It's a super common mix-up, and that's exactly what we're here to clear up.
Okay, so to really get this, we've got to break it down and look at them one by one. First up, let's tackle culture. What is it, really? Well, the simplest way to think about it is as the shared way of life of a group. You can almost think of culture as like the invisible software that runs a society. Seriously, it's everything. It's the language we speak, the food we love, our deepest values, the unwritten social rules, all of it. But here's the key thing to remember. It's all learned and it's shared. Nobody's born with culture. You pick it up, you absorb it from the world you grow up in. And really, if you strip everything else away, this is what you're left with. Culture is simply the way a group of people lives. It's their unique fingerprint on the world, and it shapes, well, everything, from their art and music to their laws and family structures.
And you see this play out in the real world all the time, right? Just think about something as simple as saying hello. A bow in Japan, saying assalamu alaikum in Pakistan. These are totally different, but both are deeply cultural. And it doesn't stop there. Think about food, clothes, festivals. All of these are the real, tangible signs of a group's shared way of life.
Okay, so I think we've got a pretty good handle on culture now, so let's switch gears and talk about gender. Now, if culture is that big picture way of life, then gender, well, gender is more like a social blueprint. It's about how society expects different people to fit into that way of life. And this right here, this is probably the most important point we're going to make. Look closely at the words social and cultural roles. This is not about biology. It's not about the sex you're assigned at birth. It's about what society expects of you because of your identity. So, to put it really simply, gender is the set of unwritten rules a society makes up for what it means to be masculine or feminine. It's all about the ideas and expectations we attach to different identities. It's a social idea, not a biological one. That's the key.
Let's get real with some examples. The idea that men are supposed to be the main providers, work outside the home, or that women are just naturally the ones to take care of the kids. These are classic gender roles. But think about it. Is any of that set in stone by biology? No way. They're just social expectations. And the important thing is, they can and they do change.
All right, we've defined culture, we've defined gender. Now for the main event. Let's put them side by side and really nail down the differences. This is where it's all going to click. This chart just lays it all out so clearly. So let's walk through it. Look at the basis for each. Culture comes from deep stuff: history, tradition, religion. But gender? That's based on how a society understands or interprets sex. And what about its nature? Culture is always for the group, right? It's collective. But gender is both social and deeply personal. And then there's this last one, change, which is so interesting. Culture moves slowly, it changes over generations. But gender roles, they can change way faster as our awareness and conversations evolve. It makes sense, right? One is tied to ancient traditions, the other is something we live out and negotiate every single day. Okay, so they're definitely different, but they're not totally separate. They don't exist in their own little bubbles. In fact, they're constantly interacting with each other. Let's take a look at how that actually works. The easiest way to think about it is like a two-way street. The culture you're in, that sets the stage. It creates the environment for what gender roles look like. But at the same time, the way people live out their gender, the way they challenge those roles, that can actually start to change the culture itself. And you can see this dynamic playing out right here. In a lot of more traditional cultures, you might see really strict gender roles, right? Men are the providers, women are the caregivers. But then, as a culture starts to change or modernize, what happens? Suddenly those roles get way more flexible, more shared. The culture evolved, and the ideas about gender evolved with it. Okay, so we've done all this work pulling these two ideas apart. But so what? Why does any of this actually matter in the real world? Why is it so important to get this right?
Well, it matters because understanding is the first step to action. Think about it. When we can tell the difference between a harmful gender stereotype and a beautiful cultural tradition, we can challenge that stereotype without being disrespectful to the culture itself. And that's huge. It's how we can actually promote equality, appreciate diversity in a meaningful way, and, build a society where everyone can feel like they belong.
I think this quote just sums it all up perfectly. Culture belongs to society, while gender belongs to personal and social identity. Here's a way to picture it. Culture is the big stage we're all on. Gender is about the roles we're assigned to play on that stage. Or maybe the roles we choose to create for ourselves.
And that really brings us to the final question, the one for you to think about. Now that you can see the difference, just take a second. How do these unwritten rules, both from your culture and about gender, show up in your life, in your family, in your community? It's a pretty powerful thing to think about. Thanks so much for digging into this with me today.